You start now.
Yeah. Count it down.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the second ever at the Boring Bar. And as you can see, our bar has been upgraded. So
Serious upgrade.
The first one was so successful, we were able to buy all of these cars. And no, that's not true. Where are we?
We're at Roush Yates. This is quite a day, Paul. It's like this is your dream day, right?
Yeah, I'm pinching myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Roush Yates Manufacturing Solutions, just down the street from Roush Yates Engines. Arguably the most world-class shop I've ever seen. I'm sure
Most shops don't have a lobby like this. Just for those who are watching who aren't from the industry.
GT40 in the lobby.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's world-class lobby, and the shop is right there with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, the shop was pretty outstanding.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So we brought some teammates with us.
Yeah, and they were kind enough to not only let us record this, but do a tour with a bunch of the folks that came for the Top Shops conference here in Charlotte. So it was quite the day.
And then they shoved this entire group in a van and
raced us around the speedway.
It's like when you go to war with somebody and
in
then
a cargo van.
Afterwards you're bonded for life. That's basically what we experienced.
Near-death experience.
The near-death experience. Yeah, exactly. So, hey, why don't we start down here and we'll kind of introduce everybody at this edition of At the Boring Bar. So we'll start with you.
Absolutely. Isaac Burton. I am the Director of Sales for D&D Enterprises. And
it's not Dungeons and Dragons.
Not Dungeons and Dragons. No, I regularly have to clarify that we were founded first. Okay. Next year's 50 years, Dungeons and Dragons is not that old. But we do have just as much fun out there at the shop, so I'm honored to be here today.
Yeah, honored to have you.
I'm Jason Davis, the CEO of D&D Enterprises, so not quite as talkative as Isaac, but it's still extremely happy to be here.
We haven't opened the bourbon yet, so we'll see.
Right.
I'm Nick Gollner. I'm one of the partners and co-hosts of MakingChips. I'm also Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Hennig and Advanced Machine and Engineering, the family biz.
And I'm Mike Payne. I'm partners with Nick and Paul in MakingChips and have a couple manufacturing companies in Oklahoma under the Hill Manufacturing brand mostly.
The Tulsa King.
The Tulsa King, yeah.
The smooth Tulsa voice. My name is Paul Van Mater,
depending on who's talking.
And I'm one of the co-hosts here at MakingChips and Machine Shop Mastery and Manufacturing Transformed and a co-founder at ProShop ERP. So,
I'm Jamie Marzilli. I'm the president at Marzilli Machine Company, and I'm a big fan of this group, big fan of the podcast, and really glad to be here with these guys.
I'm Leslie Boyd. I am the managing principal of manufacturing with Clifton Larson Allen, and we are a proud sponsor of MakingChips, and I am thrilled to be here.
Woo.
Yeah. I'm John Starr. I'm the director of marketing at Methods Machine Tools, another family-owned business. We're a third-generation family-owned company, I should say, importer of CNC machine tools, automation, and all engineering services.
A couple of those machines in this.
A couple of those machines
shop
are
here.
back in the shop.
Yeah, pretty awesome. So we brought a couple other guests here in these bottles. Mike, why don't you talk about the one you brought?
Well, why don't you once you tell everybody what the Boring Bar is?
Yeah.
Like this was kind of your brainchild a few years ago,
Yeah.
right?
So we have an actual bar at the MakingChips headquarters, and we aptly named it the Boring Bar because that's a cutting tool. It's the opposite of boring every time we're out there. We have way too much fun, and then what we do once a year is just take the podcast to a whole new level. We got all sorts of lights and cameras, and we were able to buy all these cars, like I said. So, yeah, it's been really successful with the first one. And hopefully next time we'll have a few more cars behind us, too.
Right.
Maybe a private jet.
There you go. Now you're talking my language.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with that, we want to, this is just a conversation of industry leaders, like sitting at the bar having a drink. So we did bring some guests with us. Nick brought me my favorite bottle, I think. One of my very, very favorite bottles of Midwinter Night's Dram. That's this year's, right?
Yep. It is what?
Act 13, scene, I can't read that
2.
small.
I got eagle eye.
Yeah. And then a bottle of, so this is a rye aged in port barrels. And then we've got Rare Perfection, which is just a good Kentucky bourbon. And Paul and I were talking about the Rare Perfection name. Kind of fits well with what we do, right? We try to be perfect, and it's rare.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. When you have to hit insanely tight tolerances, it's really hard to be perfect. But we strive for that every day.
Yep.
And when you miss the bourbon helps.
Yeah, yeah. You need the bourbon, exactly.
Right.
Well, let me try some of that Rare Perfection because I've not tried it yet.
All right, there you go.
And then,
What's anybody want?
You tell me.
Here, you try this.
ooh, that sounds cool in the mic.
I'm gonna have this.
Any? No? Okay, I guess Nick and Mike drink bourbon on a camera. That's what we're gonna do.
Bring that Rare Perfection on.
Rare Perfection. Send that on down. Yeah, so this is just Nick, Mike, and Paul
It's made a lot more-
drink
it's
a
made
lot of
more
bourbon.
Since the first time when everyone liked bourbon.
It's okay. We'll load the van up and take you back home.
Appreciate that, Leslie.
That's good. My wife will be happy about that.
You want
God,
this
that's
back
so
down
good.
your way?
Only if we can get that same.
Oh, it can stay wherever. It doesn't matter.
You can hold on.
See how much you like it. You might not want it to leave you.
So, Rare Perfection. You're right. That's a perfect name. And so much of what we've been doing this year is about being a top shop and striving for perfection. And then we're here, and it's
At the Top Shops Conference.
yeah, of the whole program, the Top Shops Conference. And so, why don't we talk a bit about that? I mean, many of us here run shops or work with shops that are among the top. What do we feel like really differentiates those shops from kind of the middle of the pack? You know, people just struggling to get by.
It's a great question.
Yeah, Paul, I mean, you've been involved in Top Shops probably the longest. Like, you want to kind of kick off that, like what you've seen, the journey.
I was ready for John to say, like, well, the ones that have Methods machine tools.
Right. And that UCLA.
Yeah, right. Now, what would you say, Paul?
I would say some of the common themes that the highest performing shops have is they have well, first of all, I think they're really founded in core values and have great cultures. You just cannot have a high-performing company these days without those things. But then they also really lean into building repeatable business processes. And it's not just a fly-by-the-seat-of-your-pants kind of thing every day, right? They often have their leadership team that don't need to work in the business all day, every day, right? They've built systems and hired people and
You
built
get to go drink
teams
bourbon.
that can handle that for the business, and they can focus on the strategic things, the business growth. But they're also typically, inspiring leaders that really rally the team behind them and really have good alignment in their company.
Jason, you did this. You've done the survey, right?
I
the
did.
Top Shop survey. You did it this year.
First time.
Okay,
Yeah,
and then
first time.
you've done it a few times, right, Jamie?
Yep.
Yeah. What has that experience been like for you? Like, I mean, I know what it's been for me and getting the report back and, being able to take that data and look at where I compare.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing for us, it was like kind of a anxious nervousness of like, okay, we've submitted all our information. What does it look like coming back? Where do we rank? And there's areas that we felt like we're doing pretty well, but then when you look at it compared, maybe we weren't. There were other
Right.
areas that were like, we felt like we maybe were middle of the road and we were excelling. And so I think what it helped us to do is identify areas that we needed to work on, areas that we needed to improve on, and then other areas that we need to continue to push as well.
Right.
So really just bringing the bar up all the way, not just, one side or the other, but making sure we're pushing the whole company forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually the mark of a good shop right there is somebody who's curious, like, where do I stand first and foremost?
Yeah.
And then, like, how am I going to take where I stand and actually do something with it and keep evolving and elevating? Because so many people, I think, want to bury their head in the sand and not understand, okay, how do I keep lifting up my business?
Right. And I mean, it's difficult because, like you mentioned, you're trying to work in the business, but then you've got to work on the business. And those two things are very, very difficult or very different, really. And balancing those can be difficult. So having the systems in place, having the software in place, having the SOPs
Finding
in place.
great employees to work for you.
Finding great employees.
Like this guy
Isaac.
over
This
here.
guy. But yeah, I mean, it's all part of that core values, culture, and then making sure that the people in the business also carry that same culture. Like that's really critical to that elevation.
I mean, I think what we're all talking about, right, is operational excellence.
Yeah.
And what that looks like in a small shop, especially if you got shops where the owner or the leaders of the company are actually in the mix doing the work day to day
Right.
too. So it's how do you make sure you have your right targets, you're achieving them, you're setting strategic goals for your team, and then kind of getting the buy-in of all your team members, right? Because you want to create that culture.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in that mix. So, to the first part of the question you asked, I'd say you have to have vision. You have to have a vision that you believe in so strongly that the people around you start to believe in it too. And then to the Top Shop survey, I use that survey a little bit differently. I'm not so concerned about where I stack up against all these other companies and on all these different metrics. What I'd like to see when I fill out that shop is, what don't I know? When I fill out that survey, you're like, oh man, people are doing this. This is what's going on. I use that survey, and one day I think we'll be competitive in it, but I just don't think I'm a serious contender in that, so I don't feel a lot of pressure to be there. I use it the same way that I use my visits to IMTS, which is an eye-opening way to just say to myself, I don't know what I don't know. Let's just learn and explore and see what's out there, what's possible. And when you're filling out I remember the first time I filled out the survey, I was like, people are really 3D printing right now? Like I didn't really think that took hold. Oh, okay, and so these benchmarks, these things that people are checking off, does this make sense to have in my company right now? Or is this something that maybe I should put on my, everybody calls it something else, their vision board, I put it in my Plan B book, which is where I just keep every idea that I'm just not ready to solve just yet.
You call it the Plan B book?
I have a Plan B book.
Awesome. I love it. I love it.
So describe this book for us. What does it look like? What's it filled with?
Oh, it's mostly like a path to world domination, but think of it more like Pinky and the Brain style. Where, like the ideas are really wild and they don't make.
What are we going to do today, Jamie? The same thing we do every day, right? Try to conquer the world.
That's it. One job at a time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I have a book in my office that. Just remind me to show you next time you're there. It's on the cover. It says, "You won't believe this shit," and it's just these. I mean, we all know like those weird things that pop up. Some employee comes in and asks some question, you're like, "Wow," or some scenario, or it literally is just full. And I think someday I want to turn that into like this management book. Like, here's this crazy story, and here's what I learned from it.
Yeah, here's how we dealt with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
like
good.
the goal.
In fact, I think,
Yeah.
Nick, every time you call, he gets that book out.
Right.
Yep.
I just keep it handy when you call now.
Yeah, like what? What happened? Why?
Right.
So you
Nick's
brought-
book is a joke book.
My book is no book. That's the problem. I'm just winging it every day.
So every day you go to work and there's a problem. And so depending on where you are in your career and how much money you can throw at something, you have to decide if you're going to solve or if you're going to settle. So before we had moved from our old facility, which was only about 3,500 square feet, to our new one, which is 13,000, there were a lot of decisions that there was nothing we could do about it. We were trapped in this little building. And so you just can't keep circling the drain on some of this stuff. But it doesn't mean it was a bad idea. So I would decide to just settle for now. So I would write that idea down in the Plan B book. And then when I moved into my new building, like within a year, I executed most of that book because now I had the space and now it made sense to solve.
Yeah, that's cool.
I like that framework you use. And I joke about not having a book. I'm always reading a book.
Can you read?
I can read. Yeah.
Okay.
If there's lots of pictures, it's really helpful for me. Jokes aside, like the book that I've been reading is a ton of pictures. It's a book called Business Model Generation, and it's all about like how to visualize your business model in one view and how all the different components of it interact with each other. And so it's something that we're using in our business at the end of the year to kind of audit how our business model works. And our company's got all these different business units working together and different leadership teams in each business unit. And so we're taking the time to like make sure we understand the current state of these business models, how they're producing a real result. Like that's where the CLA folks come in and help you see, okay, this business model produces this financial performance. And then are there adjustments we can make to the business model next year to like maybe change some things and challenge the status quo? Because I think what we're learning in our business right now is like you can bust your ass like crazy, and if you have a dysfunctional business model, like it's not going to get you anywhere. And we all know how hard it is in this industry to make a buck.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So it's like maybe once or twice a year, take a step back and look at the whole business model. Like, should we even be doing this way?
No, that's smart. I bet you get really good visibility. we find ourselves solving symptoms a lot instead of solving problems.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so by taking a step back and looking at what you can start seeing the patterns where they can maybe even complement one another.
Yeah, it's spot on. So you brought up IMTS and going there as a way to kind of like check yourself against, like, are we even considering that? Did we even know that was a thing? And one of the things we wanted to talk about is IMTS is like this every 2 years prom of the industry, and everyone gets their stuff together for the IMTS. And one of my favorite stories is, I don't even know the name of the exhibitor, but their CEO wouldn't let them go.
That was not a good ROI for them.
Their CEO wouldn't let them go and exhibit because it's expensive to do so if they didn't have something new that they've developed to release to the industry.
So that was the drive and the push.
So it's like, hey, you want to be there? Like, don't bring the same stuff you brought 2 years ago. Bring something new, because that's why people go to the trade show. So this is kind of for anyone and everyone here. But, you know, if you were there last time and if you plan to be there next year in September, what do you perceive is going to be the biggest change in terms of what you see and what people are talking about?
Or I can jump into the 7.
Yeah, I want to hear.
I have an IMTS meeting on Wednesday.
Yeah, let's hear.
So we are already in the deep of 26, thinking about 24. No, I mean, I think, look, my background was 2024 was kind of my second IMTS, right? I've been in the industry about 5 years now. And I think where I'm from the marketing side, and I'll say this for all the marketers out there who are in our industry. It is not easy being a marketer in this industry, right? Everybody's fighting for attention. There's so many players. A show like IMTS, I think to your point, Nick, right? It's like, what are you bringing new? And that's what I've been challenging on my own leadership team with my own engineering team, is saying, you know, Methods has a long history in IMTS, but we got to keep pushing the envelope and doing things new. And I think about 24, I remember walking around that show, looking at all the builders, looking at the software companies, the tooling guys, and looking at, okay, everybody's in this huge ecosystem, but what are you really doing to stand out and differentiate? And at least from the machine tool side, it's kind of surprising that the OEMs, the big OEMs, the big guys that we compete against with every day, it was kind of looked like the same playbook they had in 22, the same playbooks they bring to EMO or GymTOF or all the other international shows. But I'm also going in there looking at, what are they doing from a marketing side? What's somebody doing that catches my eye as a marketer, but maybe goes a little unseen? And so when I look ahead to 26, I'm going, what's going to be in that booth that makes people stop, right?
Yeah.
And that makes people text their buddy who might be in the other wing saying, you've got to come to the Methods booth. And I'll put a little plug in. You should come to the Methods booth.
He's like, I just spent X,
because we're
X
gonna be
amount
doing
of
some cool
dollars on it.
stuff.
Please come to the booth.
Yeah, we have 3 exhibitors here, so you guys all get your plugs in. Before we're done. Here.
But it's a challenge, right? And I think that show is such the center of gravity for our industry.
Absolutely.
For
That,
sure.
like, the pressure is definitely on to be new and different, especially all these emerging technologies coming out. What's differentiating from automation, adopting artificial intelligence, new ways of looking at service and support from a builder side, because that's really where you're making the difference for your customers.
It's funny. There's this marketing company I was working with a long time ago. They had IMTS bingo card of all these overused adjectives like innovation, precision, this and that.
Right.
So like whoever could get it filled out first wins, and you get it filled out in like the first 2 minutes of walking through the South Hall. You know, it's so to your point. You know, what are you doing to be a little bit different and stand out?
Well, I have a concern that I really hope is a trend that we don't see, which is kind of what's been going on with East Tech. So I've been a huge fan of East Tech. I've been going there since I was a kid. I think I was in my mid-20s. My boss took us there one time. And every year I've gone since, there have been less and less machines there, less and less exhibitors. I saw a little bit of that at IMTS. I hope it's a trend that doesn't continue. I'm not sure if I saw Maury there last year, but I know the year before
They
pulled out,
they weren't.
And they're trying to convince you to leave McCormick and head down to their place to take a look at their stuff. And I think it's a mistake. I think they should be going in the opposite direction. And this was a trend that kind of started from COVID. And people, the bean counters, kind of pulled back and went, wow, look at how much expensive this is. Look how much money we saved. Because it's hard to quantify how many new customers they would have picked up if they had exhibited properly.
You're exhibitor. You guys kind of changed your game up.
Yeah, I think with that, any kind of marketing like that, you just have to play the long game, right? You have to continue to innovate, be in front of people, let them come talk to you in person.
Unless you have a giant gorilla, that seems to just work.
There is that one booth with the giant gorilla.
I don't know who those folks are.
Just keep bringing that.
They might make mills.
Although they also have beer kegs there almost every time, so that booth sells.
Yeah, for sure.
But I wanted to dig into, you talked about standing out, as exhibitors. I think it's hard to stand out as a shop.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. It's way more competitive than the manufacturers. There's so many machine tool makers, but there are thousands and thousands of shops. And it is tough to be seen and heard in the cacophony of, 20,000 shops.
Just
Sorry,
drop,
Nick.
just dropping a word to be way smarter than everybody else.
Was that on the
Hold
bingo
on,
card?
we all have to Google
Hang on, I have
that.
to
What's that mean?
Sorry, just clear my throat.
I want to get that cacophony out.
Well, it's tough to stand out too because we're limited by what we can do. So if I can show off my talent and make something super awesome, I can't show it. I'm constrained by ITAR, by
Right.
AS9100, by NDAs.
That's
I
a good
don't-
point too.
I don't want to. I got to be careful.
But I make good parts and I send them on time.
Okay.
That's what everybody says.
That's,
Maybe-
I mean, that's the,
maybe a button.
right.
That says that. Actually, I think I might do that.
That's actually a good idea.
Paul, you
bad.
bring up a good point. I have like maybe 5-ish competitors on conveyors and coolant management. How many competitors do you guys have?
Thousands.
Countless,
Right.
yeah.
I think it's
some of-
18,392.
I think some
I think
of it's
that's
like
pretty
budget
accurate.
related too. I mean, like as a smaller shops, I mean, you've got a huge group that you're competing with, but like your resources, you want to put it back into the business.
Right.
And if you're taking money to spend on the marketing aspect, well, that's money you're not putting back to your people or putting back to your equipment. And so it's that balance of like, how do we move? How do we do them all? How do you do it all? And then you can't. You just,
Sure.
you.
Right.
I mean,
and your customers are not, for the most part, our customers are not at IMTS looking
right.
For us.
Right.
For
My-
other
the
shops, yeah.
people are. We're the customer.
We
That's
are
what
the
IMTS.
customer.
That's correct.
Right. So big OEMs, and I know maybe some of the primes are there looking for suppliers. I have run into some folks, but all in all, it's not like OEM customers are not there looking for you. So like if I got a booth, what kind of a booth could I afford at my size? I would be way in the back where like nobody's.
Yeah, you and I are in the East Hall by ourselves.
just
Yeah.
playing ping pong.
I've always
back there.
wondered if like one job shop put together just one heck of a booth and they were the only job shop at IMTS, like would it work?
Hey,
No.
have MakingChips funded? I'll do it. I'll strap a giant sign to my back that says "I make great parts on time."
Is that you're going to hang that on the gorilla?
I'll dress as a gorilla.
That
Whatever
is
you
the
need.
booth.
What wouldn't you do for a couple $1 million? Be honest.
I'd dress up as a gorilla, no problem.
I think
Do it
that's,
on Halloween for free.
I think Jamie, though, that is the differentiator for the job shop is like the people that you're dealing with.
Yep.
So they probably don't wear a sign and wander around saying, "Hey, look, my parts are on time every time and great quality." But at the end of the day, it's about trust and relationship, and people need to trust when they send something to Mike's shop or to your shop or to you guys' shop that like they're going to get what they expect and they're going to get a true partnership and somebody they can trust and somebody that can do more than just fulfill the transaction.
Yeah, that's big. And I think building the relationship back with that customer is important from our side as well, because we want to work with customers that are good people as well. Like it's not just us trying. I mean, sometimes we're having to interview them because you get a bad customer, and that's just as damaging as not doing things. So
They want to tie up your capacity with low margin work and not pay on time.
Yeah,
and
it's critical.
That can kill you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I think there's a perception that there's an unequal relationship with customers. And I think as a smaller business, it's easy to think that way. But I think as a shop matures and as the landscape matures right now, like there is so much demand and the supply chain is, in many cases, it's shrinking, right? Especially in like the defense space, that it really is more of a pure relationship. And those OEMs, those primes need shops just as much as you need them.
So I'm going to push back on you there. I mean, I don't disagree with what you said, but
Yeah, I knew you had a bad experience just
Well,
with some of the crap.
right, and I actually want
aerospace.
Leslie's input on this
Yeah.
because you work with tons of different manufacturers in all sorts of spaces. But that is true. There's a shrinking supply base. Everybody talks about the supply chain as their biggest struggle, so forth. But I mean, they don't care, right? Like I'm not getting that PO if I don't agree to their terms. I don't.
Mike's right though. So you're both right. The landscape is like the numbers tell you the truth that, especially if you're doing highly complicated 5-axis work, you don't have as much competition as you think. But also at the same time,
they don't care.
The primes and the OEMs, you're talking about people who are spending someone else's money.
Right.
That's the truth. Okay. Their boss's boss told them, you got to buy this $2 billion worth of products. And so this guy feels powerful and he's going to wield this power over you. And so then you have to conform to what they want, unless you're not going to get their business.
And and with that, the biggest struggle we all face is cash flow, right? I mean, my biggest constraint to working capital is my customers, right? It's me fulfilling some contract or some PO, and it's 5-6 months before I see cash from the time I receive the PO to do the job, buy the material, pay the labor, deliver the parts, and then I wait 60, 90, 120 days. So Leslie, the reason you coming from the finance and accounting world, you have to see this with so many of your clients, and I know you do. What are the tips? How do we handle that?
Man,
it's a real problem.
It's a real problem, and it's a loaded question. So, I could take your thoughts on both of you being right and say you are both right, because sector by sector now we're seeing so many interesting things. So if you are a job shop right now that has capacity, I've seen some clients that are maybe a $30-40 million shop that have picked up $8 million worth of contracts this year.
Huge.
Due to reshoring.
Huge
and
growth.
it has been life-changing for their shop. That's been great. There are other sectors this year that are just getting hammered with the tariffs and just with the economic uncertainty. So we've seen big OEMs, and I would say prior to July, with just interest rates and with the tax law uncertainty, everybody puckered up and nobody was willing to spend $2 million on these big machines, right? It's starting to pick up some momentum there. And, we've been with some big companies even the last few days that have said if they are in automotive, man, it's a tough market even still.
Yeah.
So we're seeing all kinds of different things. To your question, though, about anybody who's doing big work with OEMs, man, it's great to have that work, and they own you, right?
Oh, they do.
So you have to really know your terms, and you have to price that into your terms. You got to understand it, and then you've got to price that just as you would if you were getting a loan to somebody, because if you don't, that is going to bite you in the butt later.
Yeah, that's been the biggest. And it does. We've lost jobs because I do price that cost of capital to process that job into jobs we're not competitive, maybe. But if I don't, then I just end up like maybe break even or even losing money on the job, waiting that 6 months, cash flow cycle. And but it's tough. And Paul, I get your point, and I keep hearing that, right? I keep hearing you guys are getting more and more valuable because you have this capability. There's all this pent up demand. There's all this pent up capability or capacity. But it doesn't flow through in cash.
I think it partly depends on the tier that you're at.
Sure.
I think if you're going straight to the big guys, the OEMs, that is a harder place to
Right.
feel like you have a balance. If you're at a tier 2, tier 3, like manufacturer that sells directly to those primes, and they're in a specialized niche and they have really complex parts, and they need suppliers that can hit those tolerances and those cosmetic specs and whatever it might be, they have a hard time finding shops that can really perform. And so
But
when you're first developing that relationship, it doesn't.
it's
seem
harder,
easy.
sure.
Yeah.
Once you're in there, once you have a solid track record with that company,
But sometimes I think it's really hard to break in too, because you've got that incumbent, and a lot of times the larger corporations are just willing to kind of, they feel kind of stuck with them, because I've got one group who's a large OEM, and it takes them 2 years to onboard a new customer, a new vendor. And so they're kind of like, okay, well, just keep buying from these guys, and they suck. But what do you?
And that's fair, right? It is. It's. When I look at my outside processors, right? Like,
yeah.
it's the same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
I'll point it back to accounting, Leslie. When I was in the accounting world, I used to always say, like, nobody has a shitty accountant, because as soon as they figure it out, they change them, right? So,
And they tolerate a lot of bad ones.
You
for
tolerate
really
a
long
lot
time,
of
kinda
bad.
like what you just said.
right. So you're going to tolerate it up to
Yeah.
a point,
Yeah.
right? And we've seen it. I mean, I'll tell you from with half of my growth strategy being acquisition, that works out in my favor, right? So as I buy a shop, I get some period of grace, right? Let's say 12 to 24 months.
Yeah.
That they're big customers, they don't want to change.
Right.
Like, so they're going to give me a chance to succeed or
Yeah.
fail,
Yeah.
right? And hopefully we can succeed in 12 months.
Yeah.
I actually found a way to leverage that mentality in my sales work. So I stopped calling people and asking them for work, and I started calling them and asking them if they needed a second source.
Yeah.
Because they're super nervous about
Yeah.
changing and moving.
Sure.
But actually, they're like, oh, wait a minute, some safety? And so if they need to buy 50,000 pieces, I don't want 50,000 pieces from a new customer. I don't know you. I don't know how you pay. I don't know what it's like to work with you, but I'll take 2,000, 5,000. That's a great order for me.
Right.
It's right in my wheelhouse where I'd like to be. And then we get to kind of know each other. And then this is a difficult business no matter how good you are. You get one way to make it right and make money, and there's a billion ways it can go wrong. And some of those things are not even under your control. So you just set yourself up as a second source on things, and then it ends up coming your way. It ends
I
up
like
being a
just
good
that
business.
semantic change making a big difference, though, because if COVID or all the tariffs taught us one thing, it's that we need supply chain redundancy. So position it like that instead of like,
Well-
hey, I want you to buy from me,
Yeah, I mean, it's actually such a great point. My biggest customer, about over half of what we do for them, we are second source to themselves, right? So,
The overflow.
yeah. So, and themselves to a large degree is overseas. So, to your point, when COVID hit and they couldn't get parts out of Asia, guess who they got them from? So, and their own internal policy was, if we have a second source on something, they need to make, I think it's 10% of our volume. So we had been making 10%, so several hundred parts of these parts a year, or whatever it was, and then all of a sudden they couldn't get them from their primary source. So who'd they want it from?
They
So
would
now,
10x the number.
yeah. So all of a
my
sudden it was
gosh.
like, hey, how many of these can you make? Like,
But it's
I know
actually
we,
it's a great sales tactic if you come from a sales background.
yeah,
Because your goal is to find out what's on your customer's whiteboard. And what's on everybody's whiteboard? Everybody's got a couple of vendors that suck, that they're struggling with, that don't. And honestly, the biggest thing you hear from people is they don't communicate.
Yeah.
My shop sucks from time to time, but I don't think bad news gets better with age.
No.
So I just call and take my beatings. It is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people respect me a little bit more for it. And then
Bad news gets significantly worse with age.
especially
I would-
if you know,
it's-
especially if they can't get
Totally.
hold of you.
Yeah, 100%.
It's hard to get everything right in this industry, but like we have customers who are like, we just want to know as soon as you know that something's going to be late.
right.
Like we didn't know a machine was going to go down or this.
And ideally, you tell me
Yeah.
instead of me asking.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
That's a good sales tactic
Yeah.
too. So when you think about this, I think to myself, would I prefer for them? So they're going to call me, right? I didn't know they were going to call me. So now they've got me on my heels and they're aggressive, right? And they want answers and they're probably yelling. Most likely
No.
yelling. From New England, definitely
I was
yelling.
gonna say, yeah, from where you're at, yes.
New York or
From where we are
Pennsylvania,
right
sure.
now, maybe not so much.
So now think of it from the other side now. So now I've called you unawares, and now I've caught you unexpected, and you're on your heels. And I'm not yelling. I'm trying to help. I'm offering a solution. I'm making you aware of a problem. We're on the same team, right? It's a completely different conversation. Get somebody to move, and that's the second side of on-time delivery, right? The first side of it is making the parts on time, and the second side of it is over communicating what the changes that are being made. So it gives you an opportunity any opportunity you have to make contact with your customer is an opportunity to sell, and to sell yourself and your character and the integrity of your company.
Yeah, but that pushes back to really you have to have those standard operating procedures in place to recognize that you're going to be late.
Right.
Because that's what
Pro
bites-
shop.
Yeah.
Well, that's what'll bite a lot of people is because
Paul, will you stop plugging your software all
Can't
over?
help it.
Paul specifically asked me to come here just to say Pro
He said
Shop.
every once in a while, it's got to be like Tourette.
I have
man.
nine.
You
I have
just gotta
9
say
more
Pro
Pro
Shop.
Shops, or I don't get my check. Pro Shop.
Everybody take a drink every time someone says pro shop.
Oh gosh. Do you have any more bourbon? No, you were in the middle of a thought.
I don't know now. Pro shop.
Pro shop.
Hey, that one counts for me.
Can we start saying Hennig or
talking about
methods?
SOPs.
I mean, come on.
Say Hill.
SOPs.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know
but
you're
it's,
gonna be late to
See, Paul's a
be
good
proactive.
listener.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like if your system isn't telling you that there's an issue, then you really might not know it, and like because you've not prepared the business to have that information.
Right.
You hear those stories all the time.
Yeah, totally.
Customer calls asking for an order, and you're like, "What order?"
Yeah.
And you realize there's a traveler lost behind underneath
Right,
a pile
yeah.
of 50
Right.
others.
I think the mentality we have ingrained in Hill now is like I've never gotten an upset customer when the day they sent the PO I told them it was going to be late, right? I mean,
Sure.
So again, good systems and
Right,
processes.
right, totally.
I enter that and I go, oh man, there's no way we can hit that date. The day after the order was due, they were usually pretty upset, right? So the earlier in that value chain that
Yep.
you can communicate, you usually can solve the problem.
And I think if it does go wrong, because let's face it, in all of our businesses, there are times
Things
where it
go
goes
wrong.
wrong. And if they do catch you on your heels, you just have to own it and tell them what you're going to do to fix it and
Yeah.
sincerely apologize. And I think that can help the relationship too.
And I can tell you it's so, I've told this story before. Some people will have heard it, but when I first bought Hill, and I remember I start fielding the phone calls. Hey, where's order, XYZ 123? And like, I don't know. Let me go find out. So, because we didn't have Pro Shop at the time.
Gosh,
So,
dang it.
I like how Paul's not going to be able to use this for advertising because we're all saying it weird.
The,
Pro shop.
I'd have to get up from my desk, walk out on the floor. I had no idea where the
Find a
job was.
paper traveler.
Yeah, I don't even know if we've ordered material. If we have ordered material, where is the material? Have we cut it? Like, where is it in the process? So it'd take me, anywhere from an hour to 2 hours to respond to that customer, to get all the answers I need, to call back and say, next week, And when you did find the job on the floor and you go talk to that operator and they'd say, hey, customers called about this order. It was due today. It's on the first lathe op. Where, what do we look at? And it was like, I don't know, sometime next week. I'm like,
It'll be done when it's done.
that, and that was, you just nailed seemed to be an acceptable answer.
Like
was,
if my
that's the
daughter told
truth.
me that,
Right. It
will
answered
be
me
done
that
when
way
it's
about
done.
a chore at home, like, hey, when you get your room cleaned, like whenever I get
when
my
I'm
room
done.
cleaned, Dad.
Oh no.
Now imagine you were paying her $10,000.
But I quickly, I'm like, I'm not telling them that. Let's get an answer, right? Like, so what's left in this job? And you do the math, and you're like, okay, so when you're done with it, where does it go? It goes to the mill. Okay. We're like, next Tuesday. So you call the customer, you say next Wednesday, right? And
Add it slightly, yeah.
And as we changed that standard internally, it was like we were the most amazing vendor ever. That we would give an actual date that we would meet.
Yeah.
And I think the industry had grown accustomed to this. You'll get it as soon as we're done with it, right? We are trying to get it done, and as soon as we are, you'll have it.
Did you feel like, though, even though you're going through a negative time, that you were building a relationship with that customer?
Oh, yeah. No,
'Cause-
they absolutely came out of that with
Right.
you guys are really trying to do what you said you're going to do.
Yeah, and obviously, I'm not suggesting you do things improperly, but I've had a situation where I've had a customer that we were on time and quality was right, and we just flew straight under the radar. They place an order, they get an order, and no interaction. And there was another vendor who was having problems. They were late, but what happened was they had quality issues. The quality engineers were talking to them, going to visit them. The buyers were going to visit them, having calls every week, and they ended up building this relationship where the next thing you know, their business is shot up. But it came because they were struggling, and then you've got a group that's just perfectly performing.
Yeah.
And
What did you do about that?
well, I can't say it on air.
So you went to somebody's house? No, I mean, what did you do inside of your company? That should have been a good lesson.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for us was just communication back to that customer. It's just it's proving
Did you
that.
systemize your communication? So unless
don't
you
ask me difficult questions.
So what do you mean by that? Like
So
you must
you need some
speak to
type
me in
of-
the third person.
you need some kind of CRM software reminding you to ping your customers.
Yeah,
You know, you need a system.
Yep.
We're all like system. And then you're like, hey, I found this accidental system that worked really well for my competitor. I did nothing. He fell into that. That was an accident.
So-
So
Yeah.
build it better on purpose.
New England ball buster over here.
Yeah.
But that goes back to the original
What do you think? I'm
question,
doing
right?
it.
What are
Yeah,
the
no, I love it.
How do shops differentiate themselves? And I mean, it's tools and processes, right?
Yeah.
It's when you're investing back in your business. One, are you setting those guardrails for your company and your team members to know when to communicate, when to be direct, and then also communicating and educating your own team members as the value of these systems that you're putting in, because without that communication, you can have the greatest tools in the world on paper, but if you're not getting the buy-in from your team members to understand how it not only impacts their day-to-day job, but how they're impacting their customers and your customer experience with these tools, that's where rubber really meets the road there, right? And for us internally, over the last 5 years, I mean, we've done a whole lot in the back office side of the business because I'm listening to you all talk, and it's a lot of even from the machine tool supplier side, it's a lot of the same challenges, right? Meeting time, quality, communication, delivery.
Yeah, we're making
dates.
parts that need to be accurate
Right.
and delivered on time. They're just
They're
$300,000-$400,000
right? You're right.
assemblies.
A customer, if one of our customers is holding on to a contract saying, "Hey, I've got 6 months to fulfill this order,"
Right.
I'm not going to be too cool with a delivery that's going to be 2 months later than I thought when I had this contract. I'm buying this machine because I had this contract in hand. So it's like everybody's dates got to be aligned to be successful, both as a shop but also as a machine tool provider.
We've been saying something at our company where, like, if something goes wrong, we either didn't have a standard at all, we had a standard that we followed, but it didn't give us the result it should have, or we just didn't follow the standard.
Yeah.
You know, it's like almost always one of those three things.
Yeah.
So it's just like, all right, well,
Yeah, we hear that a lot.
it is about standards.
You know, we hear
To
it a
your
lot
point,
from the
Jamie.
engineering team on our side where it's like standards and practices have to be followed because the engineering and production team is the one on the front line who's building solutions to go to the customer. And so if the rest of the business is kind of falling off schedule and it impacts engineering and production, that's where things can kind of get hairy, which is why communication comes back to communication.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to call you out, Jason.
No, I mean,
I just did anyway.
Yeah, it's all good.
Hey, you went to that one guy's house. So
Pro shop,
They said,
pro
"Let's start
shop,
drinking."
pro shop.
But it's a good example of how to take a failure and turn it into a win.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
So you
yeah.
recognize that even though they did it the wrong way, they got the right outcome. So how do you change it so you can systematically get the same outcome without being late? Imagine how much better you would be if you were making those kinds of touches and those types of contacts and you were hitting all the other check boxes
that's
as
a
well.
super valid point.
Yeah, that was we made the right change, but we did not put the system in place to
Then
follow
it'll
up
fall
with it.
apart.
Yeah,
It'll break. As
that's
soon as you go on
correct.
vacation,
That's right, yeah.
as soon as the person on the left of you gets replaced, that's one of the things that I found at my company was especially before we moved it, I fixed everything.
Yeah.
And then we picked it up and we moved it, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of new faces. It's like I had to start all over again.
Right, yeah.
Which was a failure of my systems that they
And I
just
think-
weren't
I think
good enough.
when you have the systems too, you have to remember, especially you're dealing with different customers, to not get too rigid in the systems and realize that some of these customers, they don't want you to call them all the time. Some of these buyers are not like that. And so absolutely taking that and getting to know and making sure that you have enough of a relationship with these people that, okay, this guy, we need to see him in person once a month. This person, if I call him, he is going to be mad at me for a week and not going to give me any POs, right?
That's
true.
Understanding.
Yeah.
And on the sales side, on the very beginning, when you're shooting in the dark, you just kind of have to guess. All right, does this guy want me to annoy him with emails, or does he want me to like just not just see him at shows once a year until I break in? And different people see different things as initiative, and different people see different things as confidence too.
But
So
you build the system around that, though.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So your first
it's
step in your
flexible.
system is to assess What's the tolerance from your perspective?
Yeah, their
customer?
communication
Yeah.
style.
What's their, what do they,
How
how
are
do they
you
like to be
Exactly.
communicated and
Yeah.
how often? And you set that at the beginning.
And so it adjusts per those customers.
Yeah, the system should make
exactly
you
right.
more human and more relatable, not more robotic. You know.
And the communication that we're mentioning too, and talking about the top shops, like you realize that your buyer wants you to communicate with them, and you're thinking, okay, and that's not easy, right? When things are late, man, I make some phone calls I do not want to make, and I'm just like, we hit that button and we make those calls and we do those hard things anyway. But you think about that, your guys sometimes are having to come to you and say those same things, like, hey, I got scrap, I messed up, I had an offset, I crashed a machine, whatever. And so you're in that position too, and so you want them to come to you. And so that culture of communication has to go all the way through that.
That's true.
And being a top shop and being in the communication thing and dealing with those people, I think that the top shops have principles over prices. And so there's not a dollar or a zero that can make you do it the wrong way or the right way. And when they get to learn that, okay, this is a shop that has a principle, not a price, that they run this way and they do these things in this way, and if he told me this or that, then they're going to live by that, then they stop trying to mess with you so much because they trust you for your principles and not your prices.
And here's the 100th episode in a row that comes down to core values and guiding principles or whatever you want to call them. It seems like no matter what we try to talk about, it always comes back to like the values that you define for how your company operates. And we just joke about that internally. Like, I guess it's another core values episode,
Right.
but it is so true. Like, I mean, we've talked about cash flow and it turned into
Title of every
guiding
episode.
principles. It's,
So I have a question that could be ended up being like a kind of a hot take.
Ooh.
I mean, I might get. I'm worried about punches coming out left or right, but I mean, I'm not worried about it. I'm worried about you.
more of a
Jason.
wrestler. Yeah.
His arms aren't long enough to reach
No,
where we've been sitting.
more of like a spider monkey wrestler. Just you might be in like a rear naked choke.
But like,
For those that don't know what that
Is
is,
that a patented
It's a
move? The
completely-
spider monkey rear naked choke?
hetero violent
it's
move.
a legit violent move.
All right.
It's not near as bad as Nick made it sound, which is true of most things in life. So, I mean, as most people know, like I did not grow up in the manufacturing industry. I spent my time in a lot of other things, and
I mean, we're all proud of Mike. Just learned how to read last year,
right.
And so, congrats to you.
I appreciate that. But like I would say a lot of what we're talking about is like just this maybe delayed maturity of our industry. Like I think a lot of the things we're talking about happened in other industries
As I keep making immature
30
jokes.
years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years, I mean, most, John, maybe not you, Leslie, I'm not sure what you did. I mean, I know you've seen a lot of different stuff. Everybody else maybe has spent most of their career in manufacturing. I mean,
I sold cars for 2 years.
there you go.
Were you good at it?
I was amazing.
So you seem like you would have killed it. Like if you don't buy this car, you're an idiot. Okay.
But I mean,
You'd
like,
be surprised how often people would walk in thinking they were going to buy one thing and left with whatever I thought I could get them
This
into.
many cars,
like all
of
these
them?
cars.
It's because he was
I
wearing
want to
his
sell
gorilla
myself
suit.
that car.
But like lots of times I feel like when I came into the, when I talk about that early transition we had at Hill where we went from, yeah, you get it when you get it to like, no, that's not acceptable. Like I expect us to give a real answer and then I expect us to deliver on that answer. And I actually remember Cheryl Hill that I bought Hill from, years ago. She's like, I'm not really that good. I just have common sense. And I think a lot of what we're talking about is almost common sense, right? But it also seems like it's been a shift in this industry. I mean, since I've been in it for 8 years or so now, like directly. I mean, I think a lot of what we're talking about is expected now, but it doesn't feel like it was 8 years ago. So are we just?
But it was expected in the industries you came from.
So I mean, it really
calling
was.
us all slow and dumb.
Maybe that's why I say I'm ready for punches.
So, Mike, when you hired a contractor to come and do work on your house, that's how they
Contractors
behave.
are different. I mean,
Well, we're contractors,
right? Sure.
And so,
Yeah,
I actually
contract
think that
machine
what you're
shop.
seeing here is I think it's a natural thing that happens with the competition, and so, more and more shops are trying to rise to the top. More shops are jumping onto digital platforms. They're getting into more Industry 4.0 stuff. And so then now you see these little communities starting to kind of pop up. This is becoming a real thing. And then you're starting to hear this, and you're going, "Oh, you can't talk to customers like this anymore. You can't just behave. If you're going to behave like this, you are not a competitor."
Yeah.
Right? And then so now you have to make a decision: are you a competitor or not?
Right.
Well, if I am, then I need to put on a better face when I'm conversating with my customers.
I would, I spent just a handful of years like in the CPA world, like Leslie does, and I would say the best part of those years is I learned kind of the ultimate in professionalism, right? I mean, like in your world, you don't have a choice but to be the most professional that you can be. And like to me, a lot of the things we're talking about are just that, right? I mean, do you
But
feel that way?
I would love to challenge you on that. I think that, yes, when you rise to the top of an organization, that's the expectation. But I think we have so many young people coming into the organization, and you want to be playing at that top shop level. So even over the last couple of years, we've had to take a journey as an organization to say, how do we deliver impeccable client service? Let's define what that means. And we have all kinds of, I'll say, standard operating procedures around what does it look like for how quickly you should respond to a customer? What kind of timeline should we deliver within? What kind of timeline should you set expectations around if you can't deliver? And so
Right.
I think while all of that sounds like just like what you talked about on the manufacturing side, what I would tell you is for any organization to truly be excellent, you have to set those expectations internally and really monitor those KPIs because we're taking the same journey.
But I think, Mike, you really spoke to something. You said, is manufacturing, like, has the industry just sort of been moving slower? And I do think there's some truth to that. Now, I've only been in the industry about 5 years now, but my background, I spent more than a decade in enterprise technology in the 2010s where software, mobile apps, mobile applications, right? Data became much more impactful in your business, and it became the expectation to understand how do I leverage all this information for a better customer experience, for a better team member experience. And I don't know if it's going out too far on a cliff to say, like, I do think in my experience in manufacturing now, I do think the industry was late to that sort of transformation.
And you actually just said something that I hadn't thought about, but when you talk about the data, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess as a society even, right? Like our expectations have changed in what you should know about me. Like right now I can tell you if my Amazon package is 3 stops away from my house, right? So why can't you tell me when my parts are going to be due? Right? Like,
What percentage of manufacturing companies do you think are family owned?
it's high.
A lot.
Yeah.
And you got first generation, second generation, third generation. Now, what have they been doing? Machining. What are they really good at? Machining. What they may not be having is the fact that, like, they know what they know and they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And so,
And you don't want to fix what's not broken.
yeah. But when you see it in a CPA firm or something like that, they're generally they're going to be cross industry and they're going to cross paths with a lot of different things, and that enables them to see, like, oh, these guys, every industry is behind in some way.
Yeah.
Every industry has their thing, and they're ahead in that thing and they're behind in others. And I think you're right about this, and I think maybe it's because of that heavy family thing. And then now that's why this is so important, this format right here and things like this, because it's enabling those guys that are in that family setting that don't know what they don't know to figure out what they didn't know, and to see the value in some of those things that, like, well, my dad taught me that all that matters is good parts. And that is true. That's absolutely true and an essential part of it. But you also need some of these other things. You need the data, you need the follow-up, you need the systems that enable you to be able to do that. So
You need that good salesperson, right? to get out.
yes, you got to get him.
But I'd also add talent acquisition and talent retention to that too.
That's critical.
Where the whole industry is trying to find out how do we bring another generation of machinists and parts makers, or not even the machinists and the operators, but even the people doing the back office work, right? A good finance person, a good accountant, right? There's opportunity for these people in manufacturing, even if you're not cutting chips. But to bring another generation in, they're going to be expecting these sorts of tools as a means of doing business, right? And so that's where that evolution of manufacturing becomes so important, because when you have a 21, 22-year-old, you're saying, okay, you're struggling making money over here, you can come into manufacturing, make a really nice career for yourself. They're going to be hesitant if they're saying, well, what's my environment that I'm walking into?
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it back to the people, because I knew we were going to end up there. But the Top Shop survey, just like all the questions, what are your biggest challenges? And wasn't it at the MT Forecast where
10 years running.
10 years running, the number one challenge was attracting and retaining talent across the board. Every other one would jump around, The just number one problem in this industry is attracting and retaining talent.
Actually, that's probably a good topic for us to bring up.
Yeah.
I'm on the alumni board at my old high school, which was a trade school back in Massachusetts. And one of the interesting things that's happening is they have one of the nicest machine shop programs you could ever see. They're probably twice as big as my company that I built to make money.
And how many machine tools are in your shop?
In my shop, 25.
So they have 50 machines?
At least.
They
have
huge
at least
for a
20
trade school.
Prototrack bed mills.
Wow.
Okay. The lathes, wire EDMs, 5-axis mills. They have, the equipment is amazing. And they tell me that their biggest problem is awareness. And it's not that, so my old high school does a exploratory program where you get 13 weeks, you get to try out 3 different shops, and they're telling me that maybe they'll get 4 kids that picked it as their first choice. And the other people in their class are the ones that got it as their second or their third choice. And then what happens is that those kids are not really excited to be there. And so there's this perception still, which shocks me because it's been so long. Like, when are we going to get over this? Where a lot of parents, I actually think this is coming from parents.
I think it's more of a parent problem.
And that this is what, these are the discussions we're having. Yeah, in the alumni is that, you tell these kids, they go home, they tell their dad or their grandfather, I'm thinking about joining a machine shop. And they're like, big leather belts coming from the ceiling. You're going to be...
Don't wear a necktie. You'll get wrapped up into it.
Giant, you're going to get metal splinters all day. It's disgusting work. It doesn't pay well.
What are the 4 Ds? Like dull, dirty,
dark,
dangerous,
dirty.
dark. Yeah.
And that's so far from the truth now.
Yeah, I know.
You saw that today, right?
Yeah, look where we're at today.
Amazing.
I think there'd
Pristine.
be a lot of people who'd want to work at a company like this.
Yeah.
I've been making a push in my home state that, they're constantly, there's the AI. We're going to get into AI in a bit. But there have always been these disruptors in the industry where then certain segments of the population became unemployed. And manufacturing, up until recently, was the repository for where you put most of these people.
Sure.
You can't work on an oil rig anymore. You most likely can run a lathe. You can't dig out coal anymore. We probably can find a manufacturing job for you. But now these jobs are so technical, and they take so long to learn. And you go to you try to take a night course for this, you get 400 hours. I got 2,000 hours when I was in high school. And when I got out of high school, I didn't know anything. Okay?
After 2,000 hours.
After 2,000 hours compared to what, with an adult's understanding of how much you really need to learn in order to be a profitable employee.
Yeah.
And so I think that auto mechanics are going to be in trouble soon. I think that the push towards electric cars is inevitable, and that the repair work in electric cars is completely different, and it's very modular. It works very much like F1 racing. They just take the entire hub, the wheel, the motor, the suspension, the whole thing. It's got like 7 bolts. They just take the whole thing out, just replace another one. They call it R&R. So they don't fix anything anymore. So what that means is, how long until we automate that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where now it doesn't even have bolts anymore, and it's just put together with pins. And robots come pull the pins out, swap out the hub, and it just moves on, right? And the car comes down off a little line and it moves on. But those people they have that mechanical aptitude, and most cars have computers in them nowadays. I think those are the folks that we should be paying attention to as this cycle begins to happen. And what I'm really afraid of is that this and the AI phenomena will happen at the same time, and those folks will get forgotten as all the white-collar folks start to lose their jobs to AIs. And they'll just get drowned out.
You bring up auto mechanics. I would always tell people internally in our company, we need service techs, go find an auto mechanic.
Yep.
Because you talk about disruptive technologies, shops out there, they're always going to want a good service tech they can trust.
Yeah.
And a good service tech is worth his or her weight in gold.
For sure.
And so there are opportunities, call it a reskill, call it an upskill. But I do think, I'm with you in terms of the long-term disruption of technology in our industry, but I still think fundamentally there's still a much more of a people-to-people aspect to this business, whether you're buying, you're servicing, you're consulting, doing sort of your application engineering side, right? And, we ebb and flow with that talent all the time in terms of service techs, apps guys, right? But boy, when you find them, they're excellent, and that's where we focus on the people side, is giving them that career pathway for our team members, but then also figuring out where can we go find the next generation of these, right? Being, invested in Voc schools or, some kind of secondary programming. We work a lot with the Wentworth Institute up in Boston, because we want to show them. And you mentioned the 4Ds. I remember we had an event in our Chicago area office, and there was a high school teacher there, and he said, gosh, I can't get the kids to really buy in, but it's the parents putting the stress on them, saying this is a dirty job. And I remember looking around in our showroom going, you see grease on the floor in here? We're cutting parts. You see it's bright in here. We got sun shining in here.
Like this.
Yeah.
So what does the panel think? What do you think we can do to change the narrative for both? Because this is where
someone said
the real
it starts
problem is.
a few times parents, and I think that's, obviously you're the
Roush Yates brought it up today.
Yeah, you're the
when
primary
when they do
influence.
tours, they love it when parents come.
You're as the parent. I got 4 little kids. You're the primary influence on like what they care about, what they want to be for a while.
Hey,
After a while,
just a real quick little secret. They don't care what you think. They don't care what you
well, it becomes
Right
like,
now they do.
let's just do the opposite of what my
Right.
parents think. But
Yeah, maybe we should all tell our kids to go into manufacturing, and then they'll do the exact opposite.
so if we start with like attracting, and then we know parents have a lot to do with attracting talent. Like, what would be one idea for parents, or one angle to take? Or
So I'll kind of riff off we had a former senior leader. When we would bring in students into our facilities, right, there were kids in there that were going for mechanical engineering and electrical engineering, et cetera. And he'd get up there and say, well, how many, these were high school age kids. He said, well, how many of you in here want to go to a 4-year school? Half the hands would go up. How many of you are going to be pursuing some kind of education beyond high school? Every hand went up. And then there was another question about how many of you want to sit behind a desk for your whole career? No hands went up. How many of you like money? Everyone's hands went up. They said, you know what? You see a lot of your friends who are thinking about, and I have a liberal arts degree, so I'm just bashing my own kind here about being a marketing guy. But like, the truth is, you can come out of school and scratch by trying to, do whatever. But we have folks on our team that are still in their 20s in senior engineering or automation roles, making very nice livings for themselves. Who you asked them, they said, I wouldn't think I'd end up where I am, but hey, our director of automation is 30 years old. Right. And it's all about making it attractive from a career path standpoint, saying if the concern is money, there can be money for you on the table in manufacturing. Yeah. If you are good at it, the money will be there.
Yeah, but what about everybody else though? Like, it's easy for us to talk like that here at this table, but anybody here who employs more than 15 people, like, you need a path for younger people or less skilled people to find their way. Mm-hmm. You can't just start everybody off at $35 an hour.
No, of course not. But I guess what I'm saying is that that's where the career pathing comes in, and that's where, from the business side, but all the way down through the vocational schools, through high schools, really helping them to understand that we're not just here to get you a degree and send you off on your way, but how do you actually roadmap to say, so that when you do graduate, here's what you think about for the 3 to 5 years after graduation, right? Give people a target before they even leave school, so they can say, boy, if I get there by the time I'm 25, I can really have made something of myself and still only be 25.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it to money, because college is expensive.
Are we still encouraging our kids to go to college these days?
I had a conversation literally yesterday with my mom, my stepdad. We were talking about AI, and some of the hot takes on AI are probably going to be true. I think I think it was Elon said recently, like, he's always way ahead. He's like, yeah, work will be like gardening. It'll be optional. You can do it if you like it, but you won't have to do it. Now, I think that's so far away. It's crazy, but or maybe never going to happen like that. But
also very easy for a trillionaire.
Work's already optional.
And it doesn't help the rest of us. How about this?
No, but my thought on school and education and what you do with your kids, like once you learn how to train an agent on how to teach you something, it's pretty amazing. And so think about just teaching in general, like how quick that's going to change. And so it's like, do I really want, when my oldest is 10, so in eight more years of innovation, what's it even going to look like? Do I really want to pay $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 just to get her through a college when just how you teach yourself stuff is fundamentally changing every month?
Right.
I mean, I can teach myself something so fast, and then I can like create an agent to teach me something and quiz me to see if I get it, and then help me get it if I don't. Like I just think education is fundamentally changing. It's pretty wild.
What do we think about a couple of years of trade in order to become a mechanical engineer, the way they do it in Germany?
I was just going to say the hands-on.
We would end up with better engineers, and you'd end up with there are also a lot of engineers who shouldn't be engineering.
Yep.
And so you end up with a lot of those guys going, well, maybe
Like
maybe
you put
I'd be
a
better with
weird,
this in my hands.
you put a tight tolerance on that like clearance hole for no reason.
To your question, what you're saying and what the panel thinks about, and to what you said too about the education and giving them a career path, the recent polls that have for years and years and years and years said, what do prospective employees care about? And it was salary, 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 benefits, salary, benefits, salary. Now it is career path. Career path. They want to be able to see that. It doesn't mean you have to pay them $35 when you start, but you have to be able to say, hey, this is where you can go in this industry. This is the potential that it has. And you have to make sure that the people that are in your company that are performing at those levels are able to represent that. That they're able to be an example of that your people are being paid accordingly, and they show that. And being able to come in and say, hey, if you come in and you intern with our program, this is where it's going to get you, and this is where that's going to get you. If you go to night classes and get your 400 hours and you're able to show us this and that, then that's going to get you here to those places. And I think as far as getting the kids in, right now the people, the kids that are coming through high school and stuff like that, they're the kids of the most educated generation that is the most underpaid generation. Their parents were promised that if you just do this and do that, it'll all work out. And now they're looking at their parents and they're like, it didn't all work out. Like, I don't trust you when you say, just come start for me, and then after a year, we'll look at your salary. After 2, we'll take a look. They're like, no, I want to see it in writing, because I can't trust you because you're corporate man, right? And I see what happened to my parents and their education, and I'm taking a different route and I'm going this way. And so I think that we have to give them that clear path. And also, if you want these kids to figure out that manufacturing isn't dark, dirty, dingy, you have to find a way to connect with them. And I think for us, we're extremely, extremely privileged to have community colleges in 2 counties that are top of the state, and to have local high schools that have all these programs. I don't know exactly how much that is in every place, but I would encourage any of their shops to reach out. There's so many groups that if you can make the time, or if you can send one of your guys, give him the time to go and to speak to these kids, to show them some parts, to show a video of how you CNC'd a pumpkin at your shop for Halloween because it was fun, then their eyes light up and they start to get them. This is awesome. Right? I mean, what did they say today when we were on the tour? They said, we walked around and then some of the kids said, how do I get a job here?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But in order to do that, you have to find that grassroots connection to them, and then let them know that they have that path. You know, it doesn't start at 35, but it can get there, and this is how you can control how to get there.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to unpack in this topic. Like, I have my youngest son is in his senior year of college, and all of my kids have gone to college. And
What's his major again?
finance.
Yeah.
I would say my daughter needed college, and that was her path, and she's on a great path to a wonderful life. My son probably didn't. Like, he's got a different drive. He's got a different motivation. I could have taken the same amount of money I've spent to send him to college, bought him his first company, let him fail, and he would have learned just as much.
A lot more.
And a lot more, and wouldn't have had as much fun, right?
Well, college is pretty fun.
Well, I mean, if you do it right, right?
I did it wrong. I didn't have any fun.
I didn't either, but there's an element of that that's real and
Yeah.
it's needed. But then there's, again, my son could have, we could have taken many, many routes with him, and I think he'd have been just fine. But I think a lot of it comes down to like what we're talking about is just even what does that education look like? You know, so I shared a story recently of, so going back to when I was in college, and I know we want to talk a little bit about AI, and maybe this is a transition to that, but like when I was in college, I got in trouble in my Stat 101 class or whatever the hell it was because I was using Excel to do my stat homework. And we were supposed to be memorizing the formulas. And I used Excel because, like, why wouldn't I use that to figure out standard deviations or something?
Why wouldn't you? You have the tool available.
Right.
Use it.
But this was in the 90s, and
Yeah.
not everybody had Excel, and that wasn't in the textbook. So
You grew up, you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket.
yeah, so I got
Jamie, tell that
Or a-
story about your
or a
your new marketing assistant
Oh,
person.
I hired a new
the same
assistant
story, but-
with a marketing background. And on her first day, I said, hey, the first thing we're going to do is I want these KPI metrics I want them to be broadcast on a Raspberry Pi on the back of an 80-inch TV I hung on the wall outside. And she was like, okay. I'm like, so, you know how to do this, right? And she's like, oh, yeah, absolutely. And so I let her do it. And at the end of the day, I was like, all right, show me what you got. And so she showed me the two graphs that she had spent all day working on and making and the colors and everything that she did. And I said, I'm awful at Excel, right? I don't use it at all. I also don't program any language codes or anything like that. And I said, let me give it a shot. And so I went to ChatGPT and I said, I need a graph. This is what I want on the X. This
Right.
is what I want on the Y. This is the color I want. When it goes past 100, I want it to turn green. If it's under 100, I want it to be red. Go. And it said, okay, give me the raw data. And then I went into a page in ProShop and I copied all the numbers off the page and I just
Everyone
dropped it
take a
into the
drink.
box.
Shop.
And just like that, it made the graph for me. And so the next day, I said, hey, this took me like 20 minutes. Why did you spend all day making graphs? I thought you said you know how to do this. And she said, I did know how to do this. I figured you wanted me to show you I knew how. So I had to show my work.
Right.
And I said, I don't give a shit how you get it done. I just want it done now.
Right.
We get paid for results.
And that's the exact point, right? So,
Yeah.
what was funny is a week after I got in trouble for cheating, right, using Excel for my stat class, the same professor came and said, "Hey, next year's book is in like the entire curriculum's in Excel. Will you finish this semester with next year's book so that we can see if it works?" Right? And fast forward to now, like my son was home sometime last semester. And he mentioned at 10 o'clock at night as we're all going to bed, he had a paper due in the morning, and he didn't remember what the topic was. And my wife's like freaking out, and I'm like, you have ChatGPT? He's like, yeah. And she's like, did you just tell him to cheat? I'm like, no, I told him to use the resources that are available to him to complete an objective, right? Like just like you just said. And that's what he did, and it was fine. But it's, when colleges and high schools and everybody else are actively trying to prevent the kids from using tools and resources that are available to them.
But we want to be clear, Mike. This podcast is not advocating for you to cheat.
No, it totally is, James.
It's actually
You're
like
wrong. College.
Like if you think that's
have no
cheating,
liability
you're
for
wrong.
this.
Right.
I think the point is if you think that's cheating, you're wrong. That's
Which is
like,
funny
Right.
Because in the workforce, we're going to actually encourage you to lean into all the AI tools that we invested.
Yes.
Thank you, Leslie.
Right.
So long as you do it responsibly and check your references.
Right. So, and that's my point. I mean, as long as colleges are saying, hey, don't do this, then like I can totally get on board with even though my kids have gone to college, like I can get on board with the concept of, oh, that's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, you can just get out there and get to work. If, however, they're teaching people to think and like use resources that are available to them to be more productive and so forth, then there is value there, right? In that, the same college that is trying to, like the teachers are actively using things to detect if my son is using AI in his papers, is also on my social media feed every week promoting a $6,000 AI prompt engineer adult education class, right? So like on one hand, you want me to pay you to teach me how to use it, and on the other hand, you're preventing my son from using
So
it.
this guy, I don't even know who he is. He's another manufacturing leader. He's on LinkedIn, and I read his whole post, and it was about how his daughter's in school, and she swears she did not use AI to do this report, but the AI detector said it was more than 51% AI. So he's like, so now she's spending her Sunday night trying to make herself sound dumber so that it doesn't seem like AI. Like, why is that what you're doing?
And that's such a great point because like there are so many jobs in my organization today that if you so again, use my example from, the mid to late 90s of using Excel to cheat. If you don't know how to use Excel, I'm not hiring you today. Right? Like, I need you to have that capability. Right?
But Leslie, you said it, like your organization, just like mine, you are like rewarding, encouraging, expecting leaders to know how to use these tools.
That's right. And you want to have them use it responsibly such that you're checking references and going to the underlying source code, especially when we're doing like tax research or something. However, again, this is all about how do we get to the end result like you talked about. It's not about, show me exactly how you got here.
Right. Don't care.
Right.
So I brought up earlier in this conversation, like this project that we're working on. We're assessing the current state of our business models. We're auditing them. We're writing a report of here's how it is today. Here's the results it performed financially. Then we're going to do a SWOT analysis on where our strengths and weaknesses. And then we go and deliver it at this big annual strategic summit that we have every year. And so most of the people who work for me are like old enough to be my dad, and some of them are a lot younger than me. We got like a decent mix, and I purposely made this really difficult to do without AI's help. And then we gave them examples and said like, okay, we have an agent that we built for the company that knows exactly how to use this concept, and if you upload your data and you have this iterative back and forth conversation with it, it will produce this report for you. And so like I did it for the MakingChips business, and I was like, it took me probably 6 hours, and I sent it to you guys, and like, hey, if you do this the way we instructed, it takes maybe 6 hours. That's a reasonable amount of work for this assignment. Well, then we had another guy who was like, this is 35 pages long. Like, when am I going to find the time to do this? I'm like, well, you can try to do it the old-fashioned way, or you can just And so that is like we're giving tasks and we're giving real work that is a lot easier to do if you just do it with the tools that are available. And isn't that what CNC machining really is?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what CNC was for manual machines. It's still nice to know how to throw up a part up and make a part manually, but
I'll give you a real world example where to this concern about losing work or losing the human role in work, right? Internally, we've been working on an AI solution with our sibling company, Multi-Axis. And we're looking at it first and foremost saying, how can we make something easier for the folks that are closest to the customer, right? Our national service desk. They're on the phone all day. They're tackling challenges, customer problems all day. Okay. Now, if previously, if a customer had called and said, hey, I'm getting this alarm code. What is this alarm code telling me? In a previous time, right, the service desk, the guy handling the call on the service desk is now looking through his FANUC manual, looking through 800 digital pages, going, what's this alarm code? But now we have an internal tool that says customers claiming XYZ alarm code, reports back out to him instantaneously. This is the alarm code and this is the problem. Now, what did we do? We trained our own internal model with FANUC documents to say so that it is trained. Now, we didn't take the service tech off the national desk. He still has his job, just like he did 6 months ago, 2 years ago, just like he will have 6 months from now. The difference is now he's answering that customer's question in maybe a couple minutes rather than saying, okay, let me tackle this. I'll get back to you in 30 minutes or an hour. And that's the difference from our side.
It made him a more effective human.
Made a more effective team member that's driving a better customer experience. And now the customer's going, man, he just tackled my question in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that because if you follow like the State of Smart Manufacturing report, and I read it all the time, they talk about the fact that even with all this AI, a lot of people have feared, will they get rid of jobs? And what they're saying is that a lot of manufacturers don't actually think that AI will eliminate jobs. They may actually need more people. However, the type of people that you start to hire, it's going to look very different. So they'll be more skilled, they'll be doing different things. You're elevating the quality of the human.
Yeah.
I will make one, recommendation. Be careful with your company data. Don't put all your IP up into ChatGPT.
Yeah, exactly. We have an AI policy now. So like we have our own guarded AI. We're not just like throwing it all up there so that the next time someone wants to see like, hey, what does Hennig charge for this?
Well, and I mean, everybody's going to need that. I can only imagine CLA's AI policy
ours
is long.
Strongly guarded by
Right. I mean,
firewalls.
I've got a friend that's an attorney that we've talked a little bit about what they're dealing with. I mean, those are pretty sensitive matters. I think the way a lot of us are using it, I think, we're probably fairly safe, but.
So is it, I mean, me and Nick were talking about this earlier. Are any of you other folks here using, let's say, ChatGPT or something similar in your day-to-day? I brought up an example of, I'm sure it's not as good as what he was just describing, but I'll take some of the alarm codes from some of the machines, and I just take a picture of it with my iPhone and drop it right into my ChatGPT app, and it will begin the process of walking me through what I should be testing for to try to fix my own machine.
It's incredible.
I think the other part, it will help small businesses grow because they can create documents, they can create different forms and those types of things to help them take the next step that might have taken months, weeks, years to develop. I mean, you just need a handbook. I mean, if you're a really small company, getting a handbook can be a big deal. But now you can get a handbook in a day. I mean, you could have it written and do all your reviews, proof it out, check your sources, and this afternoon you can have a new handbook.
Yeah,
And
I've had clients, like 2 clients that have really cool use cases for that. So one wanted SOPs, and that's exactly what he did. Is he had a podcasting studio, and so he sat all his employees down for a couple hours, had them record like processes, things that they do, and then use that to upload it to AI. And he was able to create SOPs and job descriptions, everything for the company, which that's usually very labor intensive to sit somebody down and do that. And then if you think about even just the tribal knowledge issue that we have, so many people are losing these maintenance technicians and people that have been in their company for years. And so I've got a client that was able to record these people all day long, what they're doing, and just they're talking through what they're doing all day. And now those people basically have created an internal chat bot that mentors all their younger people. It's incredible what you can do.
Yeah. Or just buy Pro Shop.
So
I heard Pro Shop has a lot of AI.
So you said, I think this is a good segue a while back, and we were talking about education and AI, and we've been talking about, vocational schools and things like that. I think making something real,
Still matters.
It of course matters, and AI can still help with that, but the stuff that's all digital is easier to fix with AI, but I've never seen like AI make someone a part,
No.
like, don't do the whole process.
Not for a lack of trying.
It can help in
There are a
various
few players out there.
But I mean, think
trying,
about it though. I
it's
mean,
not
like
that
with
great
a
yet.
with a tool path, right? Like you're taking a model and you're creating a program. I mean, there is going to be.
But what does Al call it? He calls it
where do
hand.
you start?
Yeah, I had it.
You know, so the
humanated design
and humanated machining. You know, like so the human's still a crucial part of that, and a human can bring you parts. Like, here, Mr. Employer, here's what I make. I make these parts in tolerance, and if you throw a couple more parts at me, I'll make those too.
Yeah, but you're skipping the most important part about making a part in tolerance, which is really what separates a good machinist from a bad machinist. The word is debugging. And so I can bring a kid in from high school and throw him through the Titans of CNC Academy, give him a medium complexity component, and that kid will pull that thing out of a Haas mill in a reasonable amount of time, maybe twice what a senior guy would. But then he will spend the next 2 weeks trying to get it in spec because he doesn't understand the nuances, the way the material is going to behave. And I think that's where the AIs are really going to struggle. So I was, about 2 months ago, I was invited as a panelist at Boston AI Week. And I wasn't sure why I was there because I don't write any software code. And so I was there to kind of.
It was just for your personality.
Well, which was a hit. But I was there to testify about what's going on with AI.
Testify?
Well,
Come on, testify now.
So 95% of startup AI companies fail. Okay, that's
Sure.
a pretty dramatic rate.
That you could have maybe left AI out of that.
I think actually brick and mortar companies, I think it's actually not as dramatic, but still pretty bad.
Right.
It's like 1 in 4.
I think it's just that
So-
all new startups have some sort of AI element to them nowadays. But
Well, these startups, they start up and they build this AI, they build these agents, and then they don't know how to turn it into a way to make money, right?
Sure.
They don't understand the problems, the unique problems that we're trying to solve that would be valuable enough to us that I would part with my cash to solve this problem. They don't understand our world. They come from a different world. Just like a lot of us don't understand their world. We understand how to talk to ChatGPT, but you couldn't fix it if it broke, right? Right. And there was a lot of
debugging, yeah.
I'm sorry?
sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I lost it now. What'd you say?
Debugging.
Well, you were talking about debugging.
Right. So they can't get the problems to drill down deep enough for the AIs. They're focusing on trying to get these things to like automate processes. But creative thinking is something the AIs are never going to get caught up with. And that's really what making a manufactured component is about, right? You're carving it out, and then as it moves and it doesn't behave for you, a human being has to get in there and problem solve this.
Right.
And it's a tangible problem.
I've noticed when I struggle with whatever problem I'm trying to solve, the more you peel back the onion to like, okay, you were close, but can you get it a little more right, a little more right? That's where it gets really hard. And sometimes it actually goes the other way where it just gets like more confused and more wrong. And maybe I just need to get better at utilizing AI, or maybe we will always be necessary.
It's just not a machinist thing. I mean, deal with it in the marketing side, right? Oh, AI is just going to take over marketing. Is it? I can put in all the prompts I want and do an AI tool to say, give me a really nice looking graphic, but then I've got to go back and iterate and iterate and iterate. But if I ask a graphic designer on my team to do it, I'm going to get a really high quality product on that first rev that maybe I need to do a little copy tweaking on, but I know she's a great artist. She's going to make a great piece of art right from the jump.
Yep. It's like, it reminds me of when 3D printing and additive was all the rage, and like the whole narrative was that there was going to be no CNC machines and no subtractive machine tools anymore. Yeah. That was so annoying, you know?
You know what today's is?
Because
Today's
it
is
was
data embedded models.
Yeah, because
that's the new one.
It always was and still is just figuring out how to weave it in to where it fits in the whole process. And I think that's the same with AI. Like it can help everything get better, but it's not going to completely replace.
It's not going to know if the temperature in your shop went up 10 degrees unexpectedly and is causing, it's impacting your tool life.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a tool,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
it's
just a tool.
it's a
There
tool
was
in your
another
toolbox
interesting
to figure out
statistic that they pointed out there, which was out of 100 use cases, if you had a human just get at it, they would be successful 75% of the time. The same use cases, you threw an AI at it, it would only be successful 40% of the time due to hallucinating and not understanding the context.
I've had
But
some
when
problems
you-
with hallucinating as a human, so but that was college, you know, and I'm a totally different person now.
When they
so.
combined the two together,
But it was fun.
When they had the same use cases and they put the human and the AI together, the success rates went up into the 90s. And so that's actually going to be, it is going to be the future of how this is going to work. It's not going to replace lawyers. It's going to superpower a few handful.
Sure.
It's going to do the same thing with some of us business owners. Some of us are going to jump onto this quickly, and this is going to become something that's going to really help to shoot our businesses up through the sound barrier. And some of us are just going to get left behind.
Well, I mean, to put AI in perspective, let's go across the board and just talk about like where are you using it today that you've found successcul. And
Let's start over here.
I mean, I think everybody's
Are you
probably
using
using
it
it
at
to
all?
some degree.
I am using it in small ways. I have looked at it and seen like founders of some of the big companies be like, I don't know why people implicitly trust this. It hallucinates. It does crazy things. Like there's way too much trust in this at this point. And I do worry, quite frankly, about some of the studies of the people that have overused AI and essentially outsourced their thinking to it. And so I try to be very selective in the things that I choose to use it for and make sure that it is a tool. I don't want to outsource my brain. I don't want to outsource my thought. But the Adobe one where it summarizes this thing, like, does this NDA have anything weird in it, right? Like, essentially is what I'm asking it. And I can flip through that a lot quicker and do some of those things. And being able to take my my emails and get automatic suggested replies and have them go into Asana task automatically. Like, yeah, I'm not afraid to take it and do some of those things that that I wouldn't really prefer to be doing anyway. I'd rather have another person do them for me.
Yeah, more like an assistant tool.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that would be where I would be comfortable and excited about using it at this point, is in that assistant role, and not where it would be not using it to think for me.
Yep.
Right now.
Yeah, I kind of like what he's speaking to, because I'm kind of the same way. I use it to gather a lot of information and put things in front of me to help make a decision. So it's like, whether, whatever it is that I'm doing, I like that data, because we're all decision makers and we're all having to make decisions. And so if you've got more information in front of you and you can get it narrowed down, you can make a decision a lot quicker, a lot easier, and sometimes safer. But I think there's really, all parts of our business have a little bit of it, whether it's like the marketing side, and granted, it's not like going to be replacing each group, but you're able to generate. I mean, you guys talked about it, using it for the podcast some, and it's like, okay, let's just give me some topics. Now, I mean, it still takes my brain to determine and drive that, but it's like, oh, well, I didn't even think about being able to do that, but here was a list of 10 things, or, so it makes a big help.
Yeah, super good. I kind of already shared my example, but I think kind of dovetailing off of what you said, when I was going through that process, I could see it going astray, and I had to be like, are you sure you're not conflating this aspect of this framework with this aspect of this framework? Will you check? And it was like, you're right, I am. And then it fixed itself. Mm-hmm. So like, if I didn't know that it was going off, I wouldn't have been able to fix it, and I would have been, here I am trying to get home to Chicago, and I'm over in like the Bahamas or something, because it could go way off. So
What a tragedy. I mean,
maybe that's where I should be. But yeah, I think you just really need to use it as a tool and then be careful with it, because it can go real crazy if you let it. So, and then I use it a lot for communication. I don't know the home row, and I type with this like weird hybrid that I created because I wasn't paying attention in typing class.
do you type faster with your thumbs than with all your fingers?
I do like everything but this pinky. I don't know what it is. This one's just off being like, I'm not part of the team. so anyway, I'll just have AI help me communicate faster.
I'll share two things. One, I remember the first time I realized, oh my gosh, AI can really help me. And I'll share this story because it's kind of funny. So we had a vendor, like, without going into details, like really, really, really screw us over. I mean, in a remarkably bad way. And I'm trying to email them. And all I could come up with was a lot of really, really bad words.
Oh, that works
in
so
combination.
good. Yeah.
Like every time I tried to type the email, it was like, okay, I can't send that. Delete. So a friend of mine actually said, well, hey, why don't you type that email into ChatGPT and tell it to type it professionally? And it did. And it said the same things I wanted to say in a really nice way. Yeah. And that's when I was like, oh, there might be some power behind this, right? So
it's like an asshole mitigation device?
Yes, absolutely. Because there were a lot of F-bombs in my email and there were none in it.
I use the put this in a professional manner all the time.
And, so like, I mean, I use that as an example. So there's some people on my management team, they've gone to rely on it heavily to respond to customers with things. So like, hey, here's what I want to say, like communicate this professionally. And that's good. But one of the more like kind of maybe random unique things we've done on the shop floor. So if we have a scrap part and we need to put a cause code and a process improvement suggestion, we used to get like some really random process improvement suggestions, and sometimes it was just like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know what went wrong, and I don't know how to improve it. And, I've suggested to some people on the floor, I'm like, well, hey, just pop in ChatGPT, describe what happened, and recommend some process improvements. And they're really good, And so not only are they real process improvements that we could, implement and get better, but so it's kind of like we're documenting it well, but we're also like the person that typed that in is getting some education on, oh, that's actually a great idea. I hadn't thought about maybe I should do this, that, or something else that would prevent this from happening. So, I mean, I would say at Hill, we're using it as a tool, right? Like, I mean, I encourage it. I want people to explore how to, be better with it. But with the hallucinations and everything else, we try to really monitor what we're doing, where we're, using it as final documentation on anything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, some of the hallucinations are hilarious.
Oh, they're
It's
incredible.
Like a song. There was a love poem and a rock song.
Oh, the one I did?
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't a hallucination, but I did convince my wife to go on this trip to Colorado with a AI country song. It was awesome.
Did
It
I tell
worked.
you about the hallucination I got from the new AI bot you guys added to Pro Shop?
Tell me.
Oh, he's like,
Hold on.
no.
He said Pro Shop.
Well, we were plugging Pro Shop. Now we're talking about it hallucinating.
So the new chatbot's actually pretty good.
Allie.
Allie.
Yeah, she's good.
And so there's a lot of like little weird things you want to know how to do that are beyond like training. Like if you want the perfect syntax for when you're doing a query, if you're trying to find certain things. And I wanted to change a preference, and I didn't know how to find where it was. So I asked Allie to help me to change this preference. And it said, oh, I don't know if you can do that. Would you like me to connect you to a human to help you do it? And I said, they ask me often to try to like see how things work so I can kind of report back. And so I was like, no, I want you to do it. You're just as good as a human. So that's one of the things I like to do is I like to convince the AIs, right? Like,
You're going the other direction. Like, you're not just a tool.
I'm like, you're the best customer service rep I've ever met. And I'm like,
It's got this huge ego.
and then in fact, I bet you can show me how to do this workaround. Hey, it was like, oh, Jamie,
So
thank
gullible.
you. Yes, I am.
It's like
Of
Paul
course I
always
can
puts
show
me
you.
down. He says I'm just a
So
tool.
it tells me, of course I can help. I can help you with this workaround, and it takes me on like this 9-step process, most of the workaround, and I get to the last thing, and it goes, now highlight preferences, and under the drop down, click this, whatever it was, and that wasn't there. So I said to it, hey, I take a screenshot and I send it, and I go, hey, that option's not here. It goes, oh yeah, you can't do this. 9 steps later, would you like me to connect you to a human? I'm like, no. I made it export that whole conversation.
One of my
and I sent it
underlings.
in. So, are you using ProShop in any other? AI in any other interesting ways?
Yeah, mostly it's to send stupid meme pictures into our chat thread about me eating frozen grapes or something.
Yeah,
like
yes,
that.
exactly.
Oh, so useful.
But
By the way, for everybody, we do have an amazing group text for
Oh,
making
that's the best
chips.
thing.
That's
my wife ribs me to no end. She's like, you put a bunch of people that talk for a living into a text thread, like, forget it. I can't even begin.
We should
to keep
apologize, Kara. We are sorry about the phone vibrating all the time.
I woke up
it's us.
this morning to 32 unread texts, and it was just between Nick and Jen.
Yeah, you go. Normally, if I have 3,200 texts, there's a huge problem.
Right.
But I just woke up and I started cracking up.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, there's so many use cases. I mean, like.
Really, just give us one, Paul. We'll take
for
one.
one. Okay. So, I mean, a really practical one. So, do a podcast with somebody. I'm just so excited about what we just talked about, and and I just download the transcript, throw it into ChatGPT, and say, write me a white paper about this.
Wow.
And literally 10 seconds later, it's a 3-page, beautifully written white paper with this. This person said this and this and this and all these things, and that would have taken me hours.
This is why you guys
Right.
kick my ass on
Well,
LinkedIn.
you wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, or possibly
Right.
wouldn't have done
Yeah,
it.
you just
I
wouldn't
just,
have done it.
I think we're done when we stop recording.
Do you have small kids?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but I just I got shown a demo of one from our team where just taking a drawing and analyzing the bill of materials and creating a BOM.
Oh, wow.
With part number and rev and quantity and supplier and and filling all that stuff out, and even
That's going to be on an update.
it will.
It's
It will.
coming.
That's
Not for
pretty
a
cool.
while,
6.2.
That is pretty cool.
Hold on.
But
That's a really good one, though.
That is,
That's
yeah. That's a very practical one. Yeah, but aside from making silly, stupid photos, the most recent one that I've been it's not really a professional one, but it's fascinating, is taking a picture of the serial number plate of an airplane when you walk
That
through
is
the
so
door.
cool.
I sent you mine this morning.
I know, and
Yeah.
I sent you right back when
Right.
it was made, and which
Who's flying it?
Who's
like
flying it?
everything,
Yeah, you can look up the recent maintenance records.
So for those that don't follow Paul, like the 3 people in the industry who don't already follow Paul, he's doing this hashtag Thank a Machinist thing. So every time you're commuting, you're taking photos of machined parts. And so this time Mike sent Paul a plate of a Boeing aircraft, and we got back like everything about it.
Well,
Yeah.
you can find out when it was made, when it's got its airworthiness certificate. If it's been owned by different airlines over the years, like.
That's pretty cool.
But and they all have, speaking of like checking your references, it has links, and maybe this is a new thing. It has links to the sites where it found that information, so you can go to like the FAA website and like, oh yeah, there's where their right is on the website. Boeing took delivery of it, or Boeing sold it, and
Right.
American Airlines took delivery of it on June 21st. 2021 or whatever it might be.
I couldn't even find it if I was tasked to do that. It's like, here, go find this. I don't know where to go.
Who hasn't given us a use case yet?
Well, I got a couple. So
Yeah, we've
I
got
have-
a few down
I have
here.
the one with the, I use it to look up alarm codes to help me to fix our machines.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
reduce
that was awesome.
downtime.
I thought that was
Super
really cool.
I actually use it to debug Windows a lot. When I'm having trouble, we had Mastercam somehow get jammed in a printer spool and it wouldn't post out G codes, which I didn't know was possible. And I just took pictures of the screens and I'm like, why is it doing this? And it told me I needed to fix the default printer. And I did it, and then all of a sudden we were able to post code again.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm in the middle. I use it right now. I use a couple of different ones, and I've been playing around with Claude, which gives you the ability to actually write computer programs. And I've been writing computer programs to help me to streamline what I've been doing internally in my company. And I'm in the middle right now of a capital raise to start my own AI company that I think we can make an impact with project managers and planners.
So Mike uses AI to help him be less of a dick on emails. And you use it to raise capital for a new...
What are we going to do today, Pinky?
Hey, it's kind of the same thing.
It's pretty awesome. Way to show him up, man.
Right.
Pro shop.
Mike, don't worry, I stand with you. I have to use it to soften
you,
my
thank
emails too.
I do that as well. I just thought the other stuff was more interesting.
Yeah,
I also get a good angry email in there.
that's awesome.
I do think though there's a lot of use cases. So for me, like I can use it even in our CRM or any of our Power BI tools to just say, tell me because you can get thousands of lines of data and you can say, tell me what are the top trends here or outliers and things I need to know, and it will summarize that for you. And I think that saves a ton of time if you're analyzing reports. And it might even show you things that you didn't even think about when you look at the trends. So that can be interesting. And then I use it a ton to create PowerPoints where I might throw an article in there or just some key thoughts around, help me create a 30, 60, 90-day business plan around this, and here's 10 parameters to help think that through. And of course, you have to fix it a little bit, but it gets you
Going,
70% of the way there.
I love
Right.
that.
I do too.
That's super solid.
And that's, again, we talked about Toolpath a few times, right? Like their whole thing with give us a model, we'll create 80% of the G code, right? Like you're still going to have to do the work.
Yeah.
It
just saves you a lot.
and that's,
Have you seen Limitless?
I have not.
That's the one out of Israel.
Yeah. So I've been talking with those
oh,
folks.
yeah.
So what I like about that one, it goes back to that whole 95%, the superpowered human. Most of these cloud and C type companies, it's a one-click make a program, right? But these guys are going at it in a different way where it's you tell it what you're trying to do, and then it does all the filling in on the operations.
Yeah.
Then it kind of gives you some suggestions. You can click at the next what you want. So you're still creatively controlling the way you go at it, and it's just doing all of the grunt work for you.
Yeah,
I think
it's
that's a
super
winning
interesting.
recipe.
And that's where, you mentioned it earlier, like the had ham, right? Or the whatever.
Head ham. Human-aided design, human-aided manufacturing.
Yeah, I mean, that's where, like, our friend Al, I mean, he talks about, like, use it to do the 80%, but you still have to have the human-aided, right? And that's, I think, what we're all saying is I'll let it do the crunch of the work, and then from there, I've got to take it to the finish line.
Yep. I mean, that's how I use it. I know as a marketer, right, people think about content creation with AI, but for me, it's more about strategic marketing planning, right? I'm looking actively. I mean, this is what I was doing last week. I was looking at 5 years of UCC data going, all right, we've got a machine model that we need to market in certain territories. Show me, going through all this UCC data, so saying, show me this competitive model to what we're trying to market, volume, geography, territories, right? And so now I'm able to at least distill all that down and say, okay, this is where we can at least have an addressable market.
So for those that don't know UCC, give them an understanding.
So UCC data is really just from my experience, is just the government resource of where machine tools have been installed across the U.S., right?
Yeah.
When a machine tool is installed, it gets reported. It's under the NIAC code, right?
Universal Commercial Code or something. Is that what it's called, Leslie?
Code.
Yeah.
Uniform Commercial
Uniform,
Code?
there you go. Uniform.
They basically put one when you get a lien on something.
Right. And so
It has to be if it's financed, though, right? It only works for financed equipment.
Sure.
But
yeah, but for me, it's a great
which,
resource
by the way,
to
if
show.
you're buying a company, make sure they clear their UCCs.
Yeah.
Just throw that out there.
There are other ways.
For me, it's an
you can
invaluable
use
resource to see,
with that.
okay, here's 1,000 machine tools that got installed in the greater Midwest, right? And now I can see the builder that sold it, where it got sold to, and now we can look at that data, and when I distill it all down through an AI tool to say, okay, here's where we can start ring fencing some go-to-market planning. Right, and now it makes for more intelligent marketing instead of trying to just cast a big net over everything. We're getting a lot smarter and a lot leaner and saying, yes, we'd like to sell a machine tool to every shop in the country. Great, every builder wants to, but for our field where we have a small amount of territory guys covering darn near the whole country, as a marketer, I'm going, how can I help our field go to market smarter?
it's a
right?
brilliant use case for the people on the CapEx side, like us, and the people on the other side as well. If you can take certain types of work and you have a way to locate shops that have the same types of machinery as you, and maybe they want to offload some of their work.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a great way to find it.
That's very clever. That's a great example of so there are these old paper sources of data that we don't think of as useful. UCCs are filings that you file with the state, so that way you can't take loans out on things you already have loans out on. So, they're not mortgage deeds, but that's another source of paper data
Right.
that, with that type of cleverness, if you could sort it in a way, look at what he's extrapolating from that. You could never do that by hand.
And when I get the document from our business intelligence manager, it's 1,000 rows in an Excel sheet. If I were to just I could stare at that for a week and not make heads or tails of it. But now I have an opportunity to visualize that data and go, okay, down to the zip code of where that machine tool has been registered, or a collection of zip codes, and going, okay, our team in the Midwest, this is where you're going to go look for horizontal machines because of the install data. The government data is telling us, is giving us where to go hunt, right?
Exactly. It's such a good use case.
You can even ask chat for events that happened in that
Yep.
timeline, so you can try to find the pattern of what caused either the uptick or the slowdown in the buying.
So like in a heavy energy sector like yours, where it's feast or famine, you'd be like, all right, well, look at all these big lathes.
What was
because
the price of oil at the time?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Or a change in policy,
Yeah.
that maybe
Right.
that change in policy is about to come again, and so now you can be positioned in a point where well, when this happened 10 years ago, they needed 1 billion more horizontals in the Midwest, and they're about to change in the tax code that goes into effect in a couple of years. This is all stuff that you can just ask a large language model, and it'll parse for you.
Yeah. Wow. So I think we probably ought to wrap up soon here. It was an awesome second at the Boring Bar, even though we're not at the Boring Bar. These, I have to confess, these are not our cars.
Well, that one's mine.
Well, I'm taking one of them home, so I don't know what you mean by not ours.
But just super honored to be here at Roush Yates Manufacturing Solutions, and just honored to be here with such a cool group of people here, and for our 500th episode.
Isn't that wild?
That's
This is our
awesome.
500th
Good for you all.
episode. That's
Making history.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we have to be the only manufacturing podcast. There's
For
probably
su-
some
for
like
sure
podcast no one's ever
manufacturing.
heard of who's like, well, I did 503.
Yeah. I would have to say for manufacturing, I mean, that's
Yeah.
Pretty strong.
Could you imagine one guy just talking to himself for 503 episodes?
Just to be like, I was there first. No, we are so thrilled to be doing this, and just can't believe it's real work. You know, it's just so much fun, and we learn so much from it. So thank you all for being here. So to wrap up our 500th episode, we'll see you next time at the Boring Bar. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, I'm gonna take that silver one. I can fit about one more person with me.
I'm taking the gray one for sure.
Can we drive with this?
You know,
Pro
that's
shop.
a two-seater. That's two. These are one each. That's 8 seats. We have
Like,
8
let's
people.
go.
We're taking the whole.
I've got the track.
You guys can do anything you want.
Did he say that?
He said that.
Yeah, that
I did notice that
I promise you he didn't mean that.
Its NC inspection is up to date.
Doug said we can do anything you
Definitely
need to with
didn't mean you
cars.
could spill bourbon in his Sportster.